Hello and welcome to the first episode of the Ramstig podcast. I am, of course, Stiggin.
And I'm Ramnexus.
G'day, folks. It's great to have you on board. We are a sci-fi podcast, well, maybe a bit of fantasy as well, and other ephemera that sort of, keeps us interested, but predominantly sci-fi. We're both of an age where we were alive when Star Wars was first released at the cinema.
I might just add that that's a good thing and a bad thing, I guess. But yes, I was less than 10, but I do remember going with you and others to see Star Wars for the first
time. And we were blown away. So basically what we're going to do, Ramnexus and I, we're going to discuss what's sort of interest of us lately. And every episode we're going to take a movie from our younger years, which isn't really that long ago, And we'll go back and rewatch it, see how it stands up, and have some discussion about it. So I'm hoping that you will all enjoy that process and find it as interesting as we find ourselves.
As we find it ourselves. I think that's what you
say. We are intrinsically interesting people, are we not?
Oh, that's actually what you meant. Okay. Yes, that's good. That's a good start. Good. Did we say that we're brothers?
Yeah, okay. we're siblings. Yeah, look, let's do it by way of a bit of introduction. I'm Stiggin. By day, I'm an IT support tech. What a shock! A sci-fi fan / nerd who works in IT. It's almost unheard of.
Unusual combination.
And Ramnexus, if you'd like to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, I'm Ramnexus. You may know me from other YouTube videos that are on the channel Ramnexus. So for the last 2 years, I've been making videos mainly about video games where I look at usually frame rates and some technical aspects, mainly of console games. There's an inordinately large number of videos about Fallout 4 and a few about Skyrim, a few about Oblivion, Fallout 3. But most recently, I got my hands on a PlayStation 5 Pro. I did a couple of videos. So that's the video game side of my life. But like you, I've spent many hours watching science fiction and fantasy movies over the years. I probably have a tendency to focus more on the story in the movie or the book rather than I won't say gossip, but all the stories that go on about the actors and the writers and stuff.
That's irrelevant. That's irrelevant.
Yeah. And as I've said to you previously, when watching these movies, for example, when I watched The Rise of Skywalker, Star Wars Episode 9, I watched it with my family and we had a ball. Like, turned the brain off, loved it.
Yep.
A couple of days later, I was sitting there going, gee, that was a bit coincidental, wasn't it? That was a bit lucky. But at the time I'm watching it, I really like it. Yeah. So I try not to overanalyze. I do analyze, but I try not to...
Yeah, kind of along the same lines. I do like to look at movies as popcorn fodder, really. It's like, particularly sort of that sort of, like the Star Wars type movies,
Yeah.
They're popcorn flicks. They're not really intended to be taken too seriously. A lot of people do take them very, very seriously.
Some people do.
Wearing his Star Wars shirt.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
But no, I don't take them that seriously. They're not Shakespeare.
No,
it's not Geoffrey Chaucer.
There's a good video of an interview with George Lucas where he said they're supposed to be fairy tales.
Yeah.
As soon as I saw that, I thought, yeah, they are. So in my brain, I'm just going to treat them as fairy tales.
And that's not to say don't do that, because if that's the enjoyment that you get out of watching these movies, then that's brilliant. But that's probably not the way that we go. And if you're coming to watch us or listen to us expecting to hear us rip apart particular movies and have us tell you how terrible they are, this is probably not the podcast for you. We're here to share the joy of the science fiction that we love.
Well said.
And I think you agree with me there, don't you?
Yeah, I do. We're a glass half full kind of guys, and we most enjoy looking at the positives in things. Doesn't mean we're just going to blindly praise something. If something is obviously strange or interesting or unusual, point it out. Or if things have aged over time, that's usually something interesting to talk about. But we'll do so in a, I won't say polite way necessarily, but we won't be rude about it. We won't be negative.
No, we're not going to be harsh. unless it really, 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 really deserves it. So
We won't be harsh unless it really deserves it. That should be the subtitle
we're not going to be gratuitous. I think that's probably a good word
about the reviews. No.
about the reviews. Yeah. Okay. Now that we've sort of introduced ourselves and sort of talked about the nature of the podcast and what we're going to be trying to achieve, let's kick off by talking about what did you watch this week, or realistically since the last time that we've spoken together. What did you watch this week?
Well,
Nexus, I'll let you kick off.
thank you. I had a birthday recently. My wife slipped me, as she said, an early birthday present and gave me a copy of Dune 2 in 4K on disc.
Oh yes,
So
yes.
I watched that earlier this week on 4K high definition television surround sound. I literally scooched the couch up a bit closer to the telly to really.
Got nothing to talk about now.
Say again?
I was going to say, no, I was going to talk about that too, but no, that's great. I've got the two film collection in 4K.
Oh,
Boy, do I really enjoy these movies.
I mean, how good do they
But
look?
you brought it up, Ram Nexus. Tell me what your thoughts and feelings were when you got to watch it again for the.
Well, yeah, I saw it once at the cinema, and that was only my second watch. Villeneuve does remind me of Ridley Scott in that he really likes really big, like shows scale of really small things to really big things, and that happened a lot in this movie. In the first movie, they didn't have a lot of Atreides soldiers, but they wanted to show how many they were bringing, so they just showed these enormous ships full of Atreides soldiers. So didn't actually show the people; they just showed the transport that they were all coming in, all these different ships coming through the wormhole, and that gave me the sense of size. That was very clever. But watching the second one again, I think he was very clever. There was very clever dialogue and writing, and the fact that young Atreides didn't actually try and promote himself as the Messiah.
Yep.
He was aware of the Bene Gesserit mythology. That's the right word. The fact that they've been trying to conjure this for 2,000 years at least.
I think he was. I think he knew the agenda, that knew the risk of what was likely to happen, and he's been making a point of trying to avoid that. Which is now, we haven't really discussed spoiler policy, have we? So I think we're going to pretty much assume that there will be spoilers in all of this content, unless we're talking about something that's coming out that has really only just come out. But with Dune and Dune 2, like they've been out for a while now. So if you're really keen, you probably would have had a chance to watch those movies already. So,
I agree with you. I think another way of saying it is this podcast is generally for people who have enjoyed the things that we are talking about. Yeah, Dune 2, boy, looked great at the cinema. It looked really big, really good on the OLED television, scooched up close.
And from a storytelling point of view, it's basically telling the story of Paul as a reluctant hero. He did not choose to be a hero. He did not choose to become the Duke Atreides at the young age. In the book, he's only supposed to be 14. So I think in the film, perhaps he's a little bit older. I think for the film purposes, they've compressed the timeline a little bit. From the book perspective, they've the timeline is a bit much more spread out over a period of years. In the book and in the first David Lynch movie, his sister Alia has actually been born and is actually there present at the culminating big scene with the Emperor at the end.
Or he is a Kwisatz Haderach.
That's it.
Yeah.
Creepy little 4-year-old girl.
Yeah.
But for the purposes of Denis Villeneuve's telling of the story, he's compressed it all to within the space of pretty much a year, which is fine. It's valid. He is reluctant to go down south to the southern half of the planet, which is supposedly abandoned and uninhabitable, which is where all the Fremen really were.
So here's a question for you. Was the fact that the southern part of the planet was dangerous, was that mentioned at all in part one?
I believe so. Because the way it is with Arrakis, aka Dune, is that there are very strong. There's a strong band of winds that encircle the equatorial plane of the planet, and they're very difficult to cross. So basically, it's assumed that the south is uninhabitable, and so the Harkonnen, for example, were focused on mining spice from in the north. and they just left the South alone.
It was very good. What else have I been watching this week? I
What?
actually
Yeah.
watched something which wasn't actually science fiction, but I watched The Sixth Sense.
Oh, okay.
M. Night
Yes.
Shyamalan with my son, and he very much enjoyed it. And I'm very pleased to see that, despite the fact that he's a consumer of popular culture, he didn't know the twist, and didn't guess the twist.
He
So when
didn't.
it was
Okay.
revealed, he was genuinely, oh my
Yeah.
god! Like it
It's a
really,
long time since I've seen it, and so I think this is the case where we will not discuss
yeah.
perhaps the twist of the
Yeah,
movie.
because sci-fi fans may not have seen this movie. It's
Yeah.
a very well-made movie
Yes.
and has an excellent twist.
Oh, good. Excellent. Excellent. And he appreciated it.
Yeah, he got the full force of the twist, shall we say? Because he hadn't had it spoiled, and I was so pleased for him.
Fantastic.
But also, I hadn't watched it for ages, so
That's
yeah,
brilliant. Anything else that you want to mention?
I watched the movie that we're going to discuss, and so
Okay.
I
Well,
have.
we'll leave that for soon.
And I've been playing on the PlayStation 5 Pro Horizon Zero Dawn remastered,
okay.
which is
Yes.
like a 7-year-old game now, but they've updated the graphics to make it look very swanky. I remember last time I played it, I got distracted by every side quest, so the actual story got stretched over hours and hours and hours, and I kind of lost it. So this time I just said, right, I'm not going to do the side quest, I'm just going to do the main story, and
Okay.
that's a very clever piece of science fiction writing.
Haven't played it. Haven't played it. Let's give it a go.
Yeah, I recommend it. I won't say anything, but that's the other thing. That's the other bit of sci-fi pop culture I've been consuming in the last little bit. Brother, how about yourself?
I've got a bit of a list. I was playing Starfield a bit, and I'm not a massive game player, but and it's one of those. I got distracted with all the side quests. I thought, no, let's. Given that I don't spend a lot of time playing games. I'm just going to focus on the main quest. So I'm just working my way through that at the moment, and I'm enjoying it. Just like all the Bethesda games, you have fast travel and stuff like that. So I had one particularly difficult mission where I was out on a remote planet, and I thought, oh, okay, now I've got to go all the way back. Oh no, fast travel, bang. Okay, I'm back home. It's a complete contrast to my favorite game, which is No Man's Sky, where you
Yeah.
actually have to do all the flying and everything. It's a completely different emphasis of game. But I have been enjoying playing Starfield.
Is there like a wormhole or a fast travel system in No Man's Sky?
Yes, there is. It's not fast travel, but there are wormholes which make you jump further distances. Can upgrade your ship to improve the hyperdrive, so you can jump further distances. And there is also a thing of like Stargate type things where you can actually walk through, and your ship will come with you.
Get out.
And you can basically,
that's pretty-
if you've got the right code, you could go to any other planet in the galaxy.
Wow.
With that. So yes, so people will often online will say, "Hey, come and check out this facility. Here are the coordinates." So you go to one of these gates, put the coordinates in, jump to that planet, and you can go and explore and see what the base that they've built, or the particular natural beauty or horror, whatever the ship is. Or the other thing is you can have someone who's playing it, and then you can join their game and just appear in the system with them and start playing with them.
Wow.
So yeah, so you've got that sort of flexibility.
Right.
Talking about Dune, I started watching Dune Prophecy, which is the TV series, which is set 10,000 years prior to the events of the Villeneuve Dune movies.
I mean, they're pretty ambitious about how many series they're going to get in, aren't they? If they're starting 10,000 years early.
What's the first, I think, 3 episodes so far, and I've got to say, I'm pretty impressed. It doesn't feel out of place in terms of the design and the look and feel of it compared to the Villeneuve movies. It does sort of feel like that it fits.
Right.
It's 10,000 years earlier, so there's obviously a lot of difference historically. So there is none of the same characters.
No.
But it's about the founding of the Bene Gesserit sisterhood in their early days.
So was it 10,000 years ago that they began their genetic alterations?
Thereabouts, yes, pretty much. And this is about the beginning of that process. Yes.
For what it's worth, there's actually an analogous subplot in the Witcher series about a bunch of sorceresses who are trying to manipulate bloodlines, elf and
Okay.
human, based from an original character who's not in the books, but to try and to get this ultimate
Right.
sorcerer who ends up sort of probably being Cirilla, who's the main female protagonist of the third game. But
Okay.
it's not really talked about in the game, but in the books it's mentioned, and it's thinking about it, it's pretty much the same. It's not 10,000 years, but yeah, it's same intent.
Cool. Cool. Something to check out for me at some point. I've just added to my list of things that I'll never get around to reading or doing. A little piece of fact is the event of the Villeneuve Dune movies are approximately 30,000 years in our future.
So it gives a relative date.
10,191 AG, which is AG stands for After Guild, which is the founding of the Spacing Guild, which was interstellar space transport monopoly, and that is something like 12 to 15,000 years in advance of our own timeline. So you're looking, you're not quite 30,000 AD, but it's by this time Earth is pretty much forgotten. Although there are books by Frank Herbert's son that sort of does look at it. I've actually read a few of them, so
Okay.
but it's been a while, so I'm a bit rusty on my Dune lore. But yeah, other stuff that I have watched that I found interesting. I've been watching Silo on Apple TV, which is a sci-fi series.
I've seen most of the first season. I haven't quite finished
Yes.
the first season.
First season was great. Second season continues to be great and building on that. And I have not read the books that it's based on, that they're based on. I think the first one is called Wool. Really enjoying that. Also, the new Star Wars series Skeleton Crew, which is basically taking the 1980s sort of kids' fantasy adventures, kind of like E.T. or the Goonies and stuff like that, and putting it in a Star Wars context where a bunch of young kids sort of discover a spaceship and through various circumstances fly off in it. And I will say no more about that. But first two episodes dropped last week and they're a lot of fun. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how that works out. People have sort of had criticisms about some of the quality of some of the other Star Wars television shows that have come out recently, and some of that criticism is valid. But at this point, I don't have those sorts of criticisms for Skeleton Crew. So
I do want to watch that. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm a huge Mandalorian fan.
yeah.
So I love that. I liked Ahsoka. In fact, I thought that maybe we could even do a Mandalorian episode at some point.
We'll definitely do a deep dive of Mandalorian at some point. Yes, I'm big fan of the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
And I know, look, I've discussed a few things. A couple more things. I went to the cinema, and then not really sci-fi stuff, but my partner and I, we went to watch Wicked. Which was
well, it is fantasy.
Which was fun. It is a fantasy story, so it is fun. It is a good story. The music is great. The productions are great. It looks brilliant. Also saw Gladiator 2. Finally got around to seeing that.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I really like that, actually.
Made sure we watched the first Gladiator in preparation for this, and yeah, so glad I did.
I'm just going to interject and say I did one more nerd thing in the last week. I upgraded
please.
my PC. I put in a new CPU, motherboard, and RAM, and a backup hard drive.
Oh, very nice.
And it works.
Very, very nice.
After 5-6 years of having the old ones. Yeah.
Okay, well, it was definitely due for an upgrade. So, what sort of GPU have you got?
So I went to a Ryzen X78 X3D, which are good for games. Not so good for, well, not bad for productivity, but it has the same amount of cores as my old Intel. So it's not a lot faster processing video, for example. But playing games and frame rates are improved. I didn't change the video card. I still got the same card. But just having more RAM, a faster CPU has certainly improved frame rate of some games.
Excellent. Oh no, that's really good. As we would say when we were kids, you broke the law.
I kind of did. In fact,
Broke the law.
the weekend that I ordered the last couple of items for the upgrade is the same weekend the family decided we want to go on a big long holiday to Disneyland next year. It's like, so I don't think I should be spending any more money on computer parts then.
No, you kind of done it now. Yeah.
But I'd already bought them. Like, what are you going to do?
Get a refund.
Anyway,
No, it's impossible. You can't once because it's once it's touched, you can't return it. Once you've
Yeah,
looked at it, once you've breathed on it, you can't. It's just not
but
possible.
yeah, that's right.
So,
Do you want to just do quickly what you're looking forward to next week?
what am I looking forward to next week? I'm looking forward to more of the three series that I've discussed earlier: Dune Prophecy, Silo, and Skeleton Crew. So this is a great time of year because there's three shows coming up.
Of those three, which do you think I should watch as priority?
Silo,
Good call. As I said, I've
Silo.
seen most of the first
In
season.
terms of being a hard sci-fi,
All right,
Silo is probably
all right,
yeah
I'll do it.
probably the best.
And
Yeah,
next time I shall report back.
from a sci-fi perspective, Silo. Yeah,
Excellent,
yeah.
excellent choice.
Oh, and I bought a game.
Oh,
Not a new game by any means. I bought this second hand, but I've been meaning to play it for a while. But it's a Stray for the PS5. So where you play the role of a stray cat in some sort of
yes.
post-apocalyptic cyber city. So I haven't sat down and played it yet, but it's a game I've been meaning to play for some time, and have been looking forward to it. So that's one thing I'm looking forward to. So
I have that game. I have not finished it, but I played it, and it does look fantastic. It's got very clever
yeah.
use of robots instead of people to tell the story. It's very, very well done.
Look, it's also an easy way to avoid the uncanny valley.
Yeah, good point. I actually have a Lego that I want to make, and it's a Lego of a tall neck, which is a robot creature, a bit like a robot giraffe from Horizon Zero Dawn. So I'm actually looking forward to making that in the next week. Also looking forward to finishing Horizon and probably getting back into Dragon Age Valguard as far as the games go. As far as television shows go, yeah, definitely Silo, and I think I'd like to see Alien Romulus. I shall report back once they're done.
Okay, we'll be back momentarily to talk about our movie of the week. Well, I've got something to show you as well. The the Blake's Seven, the Blake's Seven Blu-ray.
I didn't know it was a thing.
I ordered it from Amazon UK.
UK, yeah, that makes sense.
Yes,
So, tell me, is the Blake Seven Blu-ray is it a remaster of any kind?
it is a remaster.
Wow,
It is a remaster. What they've done, they've redone a lot of the model shots with actual models. It's not all CGI, and and sort of improve that. So I have yet to watch it. I've been away on holidays. It arrived while I was away, and I have not had a chance to sit down and watch it yet. So I'm looking forward to that.
wow. So, yeah, you win. That's pretty impressive, actually. I didn't know it exists. Wow, that's good.
Yeah, like it was only about $80, So on Amazon.
For the season or the series?
This is for this is for season one, series one of Blake Seven.
You have to let me know what that looks like.
I will indeed. Now that we're back officially for part two, let's talk about our movie of the week. And this week's movie of the week is something like it's not really from that long ago. Get on 1979, the movie Alien. Wow.
So I had watched this about 2 or 3 months ago. I watched it on Disney Plus, which says it's 4K and high dynamic range, and it's the theatrical version on Disney Plus. But when you suggested Alien, I thought, you know what? I'm going to watch it again, but I'm going to watch the director's cut. It's Blu-ray, only Blu-ray. It's Blu-ray, not 4K.
That's only Blu, but you upscaled it to 4K. Yeah, I watched. I also watched it on Disney Plus, so I saw the theatrical release.
You watched the theatrical, yeah. So this disc has both on it.
I'm pleased to report it still stands up.
I agree.
It really does still stand up.
I agree.
The special effects are convincing. There's some really nice scenes where they're coming into the orbit around the planet, external shots. And like a lot of movies of this era, the only thing that really lets it down are the graphics of the computer systems that they're using, because we've obviously moved way, way, way beyond sort of the vector-drawn raster graphics.
That served a purpose at the time, but try as they might, they couldn't hide the fact that they were CRTs. Those screens were.
Yeah, and obviously, yeah, the 4x3 CRTs
Yeah.
with a little bit curved screens, so went flat screens in any context. But the set design is great. It still looks good. It's still it looked lived in. It looked like a real working spaceship. That's obviously done quite a few trips. It just felt really, really, really authentic.
Yes, it wasn't an Imperial Command ship or something like that. This was a
No,
working
yeah,
ship designed and used by people who get dirty hauling cargo. It actually, in some ways, reminded me, ironically, of 2001: A Space Odyssey. A lot of the walls of a couple of the satellite and the Pan Am plane and the Discovery, they have a padding on the side, which kind of makes
yes,
sense. But of course, in the movie 2001, everything's beautifully clean and sterile, whereas here it looks dirty, looks like it's been used.
yes.
But boy, it really held up well. It must have had people who were just subject matter experts in the domain of ship and aircraft use and where you put things, and it was really impressive.
One of my favorite, like, and you had the mess area where after the crew wake up and they all sit around and have their first meal after they've come out of hypersleep, and it just looked very realistic. It didn't look very strange or weird. It didn't look forced. It looked very natural. And that sort of also followed up with the conversation they were having. They were sort of over talking each other, and as just like we do all the time.
Well, it was very mundane. What they were talking about was
Yeah.
just boring. What they were trying to show that they were just, I won't say working class, but they were just people there to do a job, and they're
Oh
talking.
yeah, like the two of the guys were very much blue collar guys. The ones who Parker, and I can't remember the name of the other guy.
Yeah, that was a good start. You'll be interested to hear that the director's cut is actually 1 minute shorter than the normal theatrical cut.
What? No additional footage?
Yeah.
What did they cut out? Do you know?
So what Ridley Scott did was tighten a lot of scenes by just cropping the front and back of them. So it was obviously edited for a late 70s aesthetic where you're used to long, slow things, but in the years since then, we want something a bit quicker. So in 2003, when the remaster came up, he tightened up a lot of the scenes just to make them a lot shorter, but 4 minutes of footage was added.
Right. Okay. So he tightened up some of the scenes, some of the okay, that makes sense. But he's added 4 minutes of extra footage. So is it 4 minutes of Jonesy wandering around the ship and just having a look?
Just as I say 4 minutes, I think, where did I get that number from? There is extra footage, and
Yes.
there's two main scenes. One of them is, you remember Ripley doesn't want to break quarantine. So she's in charge, and she basically says, you can't come on board. We've got to follow the rules. And of course, the science officer, Ian Holmes, lets them on board.
Yep.
So there's a follow-up scene where everyone goes down to the medical bay, and what's her name? The other woman on the ship. She goes up and she fully slaps Ripley in the face because she's one of the people that was out there. And look, I'm sure they're excellent actors, and I'm sure it was a stage slap, but holy moly, it didn't look like a stage slap. And it was done so well.
She was absolutely following the protocol. She absolutely was.
And Dallas, who's the captain, he's actually off camera, but you can hear his voice when he says, I absolutely, and he drops an F-bomb, I expect you to follow orders. And she says, even when they're illegal? And he says, yes.
Yeah.
But of course, in the law of warfare, if someone gives you an illegal order, you are not obliged to follow it.
No, she was doing the right thing, but she got countermanded by the science officer. So here's the thing: when I watched this time, I made a point of focusing on him because he's really the antagonist of the story as a representative of the company. Because as it turns out, they deliberately dropped the ship out of orbit to investigate this signal that was coming from the planet, and on suspicion that it might be sort of alien technology. and he had his own set of, as we find out in the movie later on, he has his own set of orders that countermand any other orders that the ship's crew has, and that the ship's crew itself is expendable.
Am
Yeah,
I right in thinking that he was actually swapped out at the last minute? That they had a a regular science officer that
they
travelled
they
with them.
they do say that because the captain actually says at one point, because Ripley says, I don't trust him. I said, what do you know about him? He says, well, I've had another science officer for my previous 4 or 5 missions, and then they swapped him out for 2 days before we
Two
headed
days
out on this
before.
mission. Yeah.
That should be a warning.
Yeah, it was a red flag at any time. And so you watch this movie now knowing that this guy is the antagonist of the movie, and they're always cutting back to him, and you're always looking for his reaction, and you kind of go,
One example of that is just prior to the famous alien bursting out of the chest scene where they're all
Yes.
eating. Ian Holmes' character is almost staring at him, like making sure he's okay. He's almost waiting for something to happen.
he's waiting for something to happen. Now I've got an interesting proposition for you, having watched the movie very very recently. John Hurt's character, who we know is the one who gets the alien, he's very keen to go in and investigate the ship as they discover it on the planet. Do you think he is in on this with the science officer, or do you think he's just extra keen? Do you think he's possibly in on it with the science officer? I wonder.
I didn't get that impression, but an extra scene in the director's cut is where they listen to the actual message.
Yes.
And there's not much to it, but John Hurt's character, he says,
Yep.
"Oh, I volunteer to go." Like immediately,
Yeah.
he hears it and goes, "I want to go." I think it was just his personality,
Yeah.
but I mean, it would fit.
I don't know. I don't really think we have enough information from the movie,
No.
but that was just my personal speculation. I wonder, but he's almost too keen,
Yeah, that's right. He did.
'cause
Yeah,
he stumbles and he falls,
he's the first one to go down into the.
and he's like, yeah, I'm just not stimulated enough. I need to be overstimulated by having him jump on my face.
That'll learn you. What I thought you were going to ask was if Ian Holmes' character, why didn't he join them out on the planet LE-427?
Really good question.
Maybe it's against protocol, but he's the science officer. I mean,
Well, he's the science officer, so yeah, why not go out and? Well, I think the thing is, they think it's an SOS. They think it's an emergency
true.
signal initially, and I think they're going out there with the view it's some sort of rescue mission.
but they did bring the weapons. Oh, maybe this is there was a line where Dallas says, "We better break out the weapons." That's the last thing he says as the scene closes.
No, I think they went out there expecting that it was an SOS, that it was a rescue mission or possibly a recovery mission. And it wasn't until too late when they're out of radio range, because they're inside the alien ship, that they figured out that, oh no, it's actually a warning saying stay away.
Yeah, that was interesting. What I was going to give another observation is that the alien, it was actually a person in a suit, but
Yeah.
you didn't really get that impression from the way it was filmed and the angles they used.
Yeah, apparently he was a very tall, very thin guy. Like he's about 7 foot tall. The guy who was in the suit, like very tall, very slender gentleman.
There's one deleted scene I'd seen somewhere, might have been on YouTube, where
Yeah.
he's approaching someone, but you could see in that scene he's walking like a person. Looks too much like a person in a suit, so they didn't use it.
Not alien enough.
So they obviously were very careful about their editing.
The one little nitpick I have is 1 minute the alien has burst out of John Hurt's chest and starts singing "Hello, my darling, hello, my sunshine." Oh no, sorry, that was
Sorry, that was what was that
that
from?
was that was Spaceballs.
Spaceballs.
And they actually used John Hurt again, and John Hurt says, "Oh no, not again." The little alien pops out, and then the next thing you see him, he's a 9 foot man. The size of, and like, so how does it grow? Where does it get the?
Where's the biomass come from?
Where's the biomass? Where did it eat through all the food supplies? That's not something that was really explained. Yeah. I mean, yes, obviously, once it started eating humans, it got bigger and bigger and bigger. But it was still, by the time it ate the first guy, attacked the first guy and sort of dragged him, or dragged his body away, didn't it? It dragged his body away for later consumption. It was already a substantial size, so.
Yeah, that's
Must have
right.
found something somewhere, but
And that's, I think some of the other movies do show them at different sizes, but
yeah,
yes, I do remember thinking the same. Gee, he got big real quick.
yeah. That's a nitpick. So
The other
it's
the other
yeah.
scene that is in the director's cut, which depends how technical you want to be. Some people say it's not canon because it sort of violates the rules of the life
Yeah.
cycle of the alien. Is that Ripley, when right at the end, I think she's the last person alive. She goes down. I think she's getting oxygen or something for the, and she got a flamethrower with her, and she comes across Dallas alive
Right.
as in Aliens, stuck
Yeah.
against the wall. And I think
Ah.
Parker's there as well, but he's less recognizable. But
Yeah. Yeah.
Dallas is there, and he says, "Kill me." Dallas says, "Kill me,"
Kill
and
me.
so it's pretty much exactly how it is. And so
Yeah.
she flamethrowers him, and that's interesting because the whole concept of keeping the host alive, stuck on the wall like that, that wasn't in the first movie at all. I always thought that was introduced in Aliens, but actually it's in a deleted scene from the original.
Part of the backstory, the intended backstory, but they never. Okay, no, that's very interesting. That's I kind of feel something like that was happening because I think they sort of said, oh, he dragged the body away. It didn't like consume them and swallow them on the spot. So
Yeah, that's true. The only thing is, it doesn't match the life cycle because by the time it's become a grown alien,
yeah,
unless it's a queen, it's not able to generate its own eggs. So it has no reason
no,
to hold them there, unless it was just
yeah.
keeping them alive as food for later consumption.
But as you say, yeah, not in the original theatrical release,
No.
which is the one I want.
The other thing I'll say, so the Disney 4K HDR streamed
Yep.
version, I've seen it and I ran it today, but I was
Nice.
watching the Blu-ray, which is not high dynamic range, and it's
Yep.
only 1080p. But I
Yep.
have quite a good quality 4K Blu-ray player, so it does upscale it, but it also has really good quality color correction. And I tell you, it was night and day. The
Yeah.
difference, and it was the scene where they're sort of dissecting the dead face hugger. And there's lots of colors, and there's like three of them leaning in. On the Disney Plus version, it's very dark, but in the Blu-ray version, the color grading is really smooth. It's almost like there's more colors for it to choose from. So
Yep.
it's very
Yep.
smooth. It looked much more natural. It just looked better overall. And I was more than a meter away from the screen, so the
Yep.
fact that it wasn't 4K didn't really make a difference to me.
Yeah, it's a bit moot. So basically, if you have the physical media, and even if it's just regular Blu-ray, it's probably better than streamed 4K. In your experience with your equipment,
The short answer is yes. Definitely for this movie because it wasn't ever made in 4K
yeah,
and it wasn't
yes.
made in high dynamic range originally. So they've all been artificially upscaled anyway.
Well, it was filmed on probably 35 millimeter film, so it was would have been scanned at some point. So it's a question of when was it scanned, and at
Yeah.
what resolution was it scanned, and so forth. I think they do that sometimes. They go back and rescan
Yeah.
movies and re-release them in higher resolution. So
I was reading about the movie Seven, and apparently there's a whole bunch of different versions of it that have been scanned by two or three different groups, and it's the same story. But they haven't really added anything to it, but it just looks different.
okay, depending on the scanning and the color correction and so forth. Interesting. How do you feel about the whole sequence at the back half of the movie where they're all running around trying to get away from the monster, and we turning into like a horror type movie scenario?
I liked it. I'm not much of a horror movie fan, but the
Same.
suspension was done really well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the audio really helped. Not
Yeah.
just the music, but just the sound of the pipes.
Yeah.
And the whole
Yeah.
ship had this creaking sort of background hummy noise because I was listening to it with surround sound. You really notice
Yeah.
it's got almost a life of its own kind of thing.
A lot of the movie doesn't actually have music playing. It's really is just the natural sound of the ship. It just, as I said, we talked about. I think the word we used earlier was authentic.
Yeah.
It just felt very authentic. So the sound design, yeah, hats off to those guys for that. Yeah, which adds to the feeling of horror, because you do really feel like you're in there in that scenario, and you are with the characters, and you know that there's a point where you know, well, we've got to get rid of this thing, but more of us are more than likely going to die as we try to sort of lure it to the airlock and evacuate it.
Ripley was in some ways the most level-headed, the most
Yeah.
competent in a way. So it was just that she survived. Like, it made sense. Like, it wasn't the person who panicked the
Yeah.
most that survived or just got lucky.
Ripley made the best decisions. She evaluated the scenario as best she could. She didn't lose her cool. She was pretty annoyed at the science. I cannot remember his name, the character
No,
name.
isn't that weird?
Ian Holm.
Yep.
Bilbo Baggins in
Yeah.
space.
Just as an aside, Ian Holmes actually voiced Frodo Baggins in the BBC radio play.
Oh, he did too, didn't he? I heard that many, many years ago.
I remember, didn't you buy it? Didn't you have a beautiful set of it or something?
No, a friend of mine had it, and I think I may have borrowed it from him. It was like about 20, it was about 20 audio cassettes or something like that. It went for ages.
It was awesome.
She was definitely annoyed and definitely frustrated with him, and didn't trust him, and said so quite openly. But also, when it came to making a decision, she made rational decisions. She knew the protocols. She stuck to the protocols.
Yep.
She was third officer, so
Third officer, okay.
yeah, that was interesting. So if Dallas was first officer, who was second officer?
Yeah, maybe that was John Hurt's character.
That might have been John Hurt's character.
What I was going to say quickly in the time we have left, you may not know, but 10 years ago, there's been a few Alien video games. There was one very famous one that came out 10 years ago called Alien Isolation, and it is a horror game. It's not an action game. The idea is that you don't kill the alien. It's just that you survive the alien. In some ways, it's not my kind of game because it is really quite stressful. It's actually set, I think it's Ripley's daughter, and it's on the Sevastopol, which is a similar ship to the Nostromo. So it's not the same, but a similar feel. However, they released a DLC set on the Nostromo where you get to play Ripley or Parker or Dallas. You could tell it's a 10-year-old game, but you could also tell they spent ages reconstructing the set of the movie in this game, like including the drinking bird. Yep, that's all there.
Yes.
And I have to check, but they're either the best voice actors in the world or they actually got the actual actors back to voice these parts because they sound perfect, including Ian Holm. So
yeah, wouldn't surprise me if they did get them back to voice them. Yeah.
The quality is good. You can even go into the cockpit. It's very impressive, but it's very scary. And apparently, you can play it in VR. God knows why you'd want to.
That would do your head in.
Why would you want to?
Hey, speaking of the cockpit, one of my favorite scenes of the movie is actually the very, very opening sequences of the movie before everybody wakes up, and they're just kind of panning through the ship, and we have the the little dipping birds and so forth.
Yeah.
And then there's obviously something that's moving within the ship, and you kind of what's going on? Is this the alien? Of course, it's just the cat. So that they don't put it in hibernation because presumably there are rodents on board the ship.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Jonesy goes around and sort of and takes care of while all the crew are in hibernation. So
yeah, that's a good
So
point.
there was very clearly there was something moving.
I did pick up on that. And I really like the fact that the whole thing just almost painfully came to life really quickly when the signal was intercepted.
Let's talk about the cat. Okay, the cat was a pain in the backside. I mean, yes, he's a gorgeous boy and he deserved to live, but also he knew how to survive. He watched the first of the crewmen get killed by the alien, and he just sits there, and that's how you see it. You see the cat just looking up with his eyes sort of blinking. He's like uncaringly going, "Oh, that's interesting. Humans can die." Okay. Oh, I'm.
You're saying the cat was given been given some ideas.
Yeah, well, possibly. I mean, cats are murderous creatures as they are at the best of times, and I love cats, but that's just part of it.
Look, I think cats taste great. They're great. You mean as pets? You mean right? Yeah, sure. That's good. Sorry.
What are you talking
So
about?
is Jonesy the Newt of Alien?
Yes, yes, definitely, yes, yeah. So, yeah, if only Jonesy could speak.
One of the other deleted scenes, I think, in the original theatrical version, the alien goes up to Jonesy when she is in the cat
Yeah.
cage and looks at him. In the director's cut, that doesn't happen, and Jonesy instead, sorry, the alien slaps away the cat cage
Oh,
because
okay.
later on, when Ripley comes back, the cage has been overturned.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay, so you don't. That would explain it. Okay.
And it's a very Ridley Scott thing to notice these inconsistencies and fix them
Yeah,
because he just certainly did that in Blade Runner. That's good. That was a good choice.
I think it's about it. I look, really enjoyed it. Worth watching again. It stands up really well after all this time of 20, no, hang on, no, 30, 40, 45 years.
Yeah.
40,
But we were
45
both
years.
around when it came out.
Yes, we were 2 years after Star Wars Episode 4,
Yeah.
or Star Wars: A New Hope, or as it was just called, Star Wars.
Yeah.
So
Space
yeah,
is dirty. And it was
yeah.
another example of that. I have a couple of ideas for the next video, the next movie to
Oh,
watch.
well, one thing. Well, before we do run out, one thing I do want to quickly bring up is: are the Alien movies in the same universe as the Blade Runner movies? Because there's a few. Okay, there is indication that there is. Well, first of all, because the original Alien, made by Ridley Scott, as well as the original Blade Runner, also by Ridley Scott. And in Alien, no, in Prometheus, I think it is in the some of the content on the disc, on the Blu-ray disc.
Yeah.
There's a bit of a summary, and it does talk about. There is information in there which talks about Wayland Yutani and Corporation and Tyrell Corporation, and their relationship with each other. And there's some very yeah, it sort of paints the picture that where they're all part of the same universe. So that's very interesting.
Yeah. I hadn't considered obviously aliens and predators are in the same world, but aliens
Yes.
and replicants. I hadn't thought about that.
So
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get to replicants at some stage.
yeah, yeah, something to discuss at a further time as to what else fits into this shared universe if it does indeed. Well, thank you, Ramnexus. It's been a pleasure as well for the first time. I'll say as always, but this is the first time
Yeah.
we've done this, and so thank you for coming on and being part of this.
Thanks for the invite, and thanks for the suggestion of movies to have watched and ones that I have yet to watch.
And I'm sure we'll find something very interesting to watch next time. So in the meantime, this has been Stiggin.
And Rep Nexus.
Bye for now.